Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Devils in God's Country. I'm one of your hosts, Casper Rigsby. My lovely and talented, very intelligent co host, Miss Allie Jackson, is having a little bit of technical difficulty, so she hasn't made it here yet, but hopefully, if everything goes right, she will be here shortly. I also am supposed to have a special guest with us tonight, former Sergeant Timothy Brown. He was on one of our other shows where we discussed religion and military. Um, in the light of this last holiday, um, aka Easter, um, I wanted to discuss mythology and mythology's role in leading to religion, and what mythology is versus religion. Sort of along those lines of just discussing basically the roots of religion, what used to be a religion, what is now a religion, and what we now consider mythology, especially in context of the Abrahamic religions, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. So, um, I, before I really start talking about these things and this issue, I want to point out why it's important, why it's an important subject that we should talk about, because it's important for us to understand where things come from, how they got to be what they are, what used to be there, what's there now, and when we understand the roots of where things come from, such as this, we start to understand what we have today. So, if we understand the roots of where the religions that exist today come from, then we can start to understand a little bit more about the religions themselves. So, to begin with, let's talk about what the difference is between mythology and religion. Okay? Number one, biggest difference between mythology and religion is at this moment, people still actually believe the shit that we call religion. Okay. At this very moment, there are still people on this earth who believe that a Jewish girl got impregnated by a deity from another dimension and had its baby, and that baby grew up and walked on water and turned water into wine. And then he was crucified and died. And then he rose from the grave 3 days later. People still believe that today. That's something that people still believe. In contrast with what we consider mythology, um, we'll take the Greek and Roman mythology as a good starting point. So we talk about mythology and we talk about things like Greek, Roman, Egyptian mythology. And what a lot of people seem not to understand is that these were once religions. Okay, when we talk about the gods of Olympus, we talk about Zeus and Hades and all of these figures. These were once worshipped religiously. People believed in these things and they worshiped them the same way that Christians worship Jesus. That actually happened in human history in the past. People did that. They believed it as an actual thing that was realistically true. They believed that their gods lived on a mountain called Mount Olympus, and that Zeus could hurl firebolts, and that Zeus used to come down to Earth in human form, and he used to have sex with multiple Earth women. And one of the most famous of his personal children was a figure named Hercules. And there are a lot of similarities between the figure of Hercules and the figure of Jesus. Um, Not to necessarily say that Christianity ripped off the idea of Jesus from Greek or Roman mythology. That's not necessarily the case, but there are a lot of similarities. And when we start understanding comparative mythology, when we say, okay, let me understand this religion by understanding that there once were other religions, and let's look at what used to be a religion and understand why it's not a religion now and what those religions were about. So we can start making some comparisons. Now, there's there's this prevalent idea within the current religions today, especially within the Abrahamic religions, within Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, that says all the other religions besides those religions are pagan religions. Um, Now, there actually are specific pagan religions outside of what Christians want to call everything that's not Christianity pagan. So there were actual pagans at one time, and they had their own rituals and their own gods. Um, and we consider those mythology today. That's when we talk about them, we talk about mythology. One of the great sources for mythology that most definitely, without a doubt, influenced the Abrahamic religions is Sumerian and Babylonian mythology. Now, these earlier religions of the Sumerians and the Babylonians have great similarities to what we find in the texts for Judaism and for Christianity. And then Islam itself relies on Judaism and Christianity for its foundation. So, by proxy, Islam also relies on these earlier mythological ideas that came from Sumeria and Babylon. So, when we start digging into um, the Abrahamic religions, what we see is if you don't have an understanding of these earlier mythologies, of these earlier religious ideas, you don't really have an understanding of the roots of the Abrahamic religion. You're a bit lost as to where this actually came from. Now, a lot of Christians and Muslims, they want to point back to Judaism, and they want to point back to the teachings of Abraham and even of Noah and of their prophets, and say, okay, this is the root of it. This is where it all started. But that isn't actually true. That's not the actual beginning. And it's a weird thing for me to think about the Abrahamic religions from a creationist standpoint. That's a weird place to go to, because the Sumerians existed long before what we have from the Abrahamic faiths. In fact, if we read the Bible closely enough and we come to an understanding of what's going on in there, um, we can actually see that when Abraham took his wife, he asked her to leave the religions of her parents and her ancestors, which were in fact these earlier Sumerian religions. So basically, what is being said here is you have to leave these other religions behind, these pagan religions, because there's this one God, and that's what we're dealing with now. So if you want to be with me, you got to leave all this other bullshit behind. Now, what makes this hilarious is the fact that um, a lot of the ideas that influence the Abrahamic religions and Abraham himself actually come from these earlier Sumerian religions. So it's a very weird thing. Um, oh my goodness, I'm not going to think of his name right now, and it's really, really going to bug me. Arthur George. Arthur George has written a wonderful book talking about the mythology of Eden, and where the mythos for the beginnings of the Abrahamic religion stem from. In this book, he talks about how in the Sumerian religions, um, there's Eve and Lilith and these same characters that we see in the Bible and in Judaism. These same characters existed before those books were ever even an idea. Before Abraham ever took up the mantle and said, "Hey, I'm going to be the emissary of this new religion, this new God, and these new chosen people." Um, and in Arthur George's book, he talks about the basic character writer that gave us these texts, and he calls him the Yahwehist. And so the Yahwehist, what he does is he actually takes these earlier Sumerian and Babylonian texts, and he transforms them. He takes these same stories and he transforms them, and he twists the character plot to a different bent so that we have a different viewpoint of these same basic characters. And even Yahweh himself comes from the earlier Sumerian religions as a lesser god. Yahweh was not even a major god. So it's funny when we hear Christians talk about Yahweh. Yahweh was never even a major god. He was a minor third tier god in a pantheon of gods under the Sumerian religion. And yet he seems to be elevated by this writer who brings us the Jewish text to a point of being the only God. Now, he messes up, this Yahwehist, this author that supposedly gave us these early Jewish texts. And at least in one point in time, this author, or it possibly many authors that took on the mantle of bringing us forward. Oh, look, I think Brown is joining us.
Finally.
It'd be great. Yeah.
Can you guys,
You guys just don't want to hear me rattle on. Yes, I can hear you, Brown. I can hear you, sir.
Is it giving my video?
I'm getting no video yet. Yeah, I'm getting no video yet, but I'm sure it will come through, or possibly you can come back in. But yeah, I had to get us rolling. So yeah, we can definitely hear you. So even if we can't see you, we can definitely hear you.
Yeah,
there we go. Video.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I had to do the update. It took longer than I was expecting.
Oh, not a problem. Not a problem. I've just been rattling on here, so people have been listening to me talk about all this craziness.
Is it just me and you tonight?
Allie is trying to get her computer going. She is having some technical difficulties as well, so we're all behind the wall there. So what I've actually begun talking about already is talking about the earlier mythologies which the Abrahamic faiths were drawn from, and I've been talking about the earlier Sumerian and Babylonian religions, which have contributed to Judaism, Christianity, and by proxy Islam. And the point I'm at right now, I'm talking about this the generalized author that Arthur George in one of his books calls the Yahwehist, and this is basically the earliest Jewish writers who took the Sumerian and Babylonian ideas and transformed it into what we have as Judaism and Christianity today. So he took these characters from the earlier Sumerian religions and he transformed them and told their stories in a different way. And now we're at this point where we have Judaism and Christianity. And I was discussing let me get back on track here. I was discussing how oh my goodness, I've lost my train of thought. I know you've done some research and some study on this. So, in your well, let's go back a little bit. I think one of the things we can definitely talk about here is you and I both came to the position of being atheists because of the amount of research and study that we did into the religions we were raised in Christianity. And so it seems to be a common theme amongst a lot of atheists where you go from being this devout Christian person, and all of a sudden you're challenged in some way, and then you have, certain questions are asked, and you're like, I've got to answer that. I'm sure there's an answer. I have to give an answer for that, and so you go looking for it, and then you find, holy shit, there is an answer for that, and it's terrible, and it doesn't agree with my personal viewpoints and my frame of reference. So in your journey of leaving Christianity, um, was mythological study a big part of what made you really just start going, wait, this really just sounds like bullshit?
For me, it was more when I started to actually go back through the Bible and read through earlier transcripts and earlier Bibles that predated that, going from the New King James to the original King James to the Matthews to the Wycliffe, and then going further back to uh, Israel and the actual Dead Sea Scrolls. It started to, with each rendition that was older and older, it was different, and things you could tell that through different generations, the story was changed to fit that time period, fit to meet that generation's expectation of what it would make the most sense. And for instance, like the story of David and the lion. In the earlier transcripts, it's David and a dragon, and before that it's David and a Cyclops. It's continuously changed depending on the generation and the area that it's in. And the further back I dug, the more and more I found that different religious aspects of Christianity, leading from Judaism, aligned with different religions around the areas in which the believers of Christianity and Judaism traveled into. For instance, you have, with it being Easter right now, you have Easter. Everybody talks about the resurrection and how that's the defining point of Easter. However, Easter is originally the celebration of the ancient Babylonian priestess and goddess Ishtar, which is where Easter originated from, was Ishtar, which Ishtar is the Babylonian goddess of sex and fertility and rebirth and renewal. Hence why there are bunnies and you have eggs for fertility. Every little aspect of Easter for Christians is derived from tens to hundreds of different religious beliefs and practices that predate Christianity. For instance, Ishtar is 3,500 years before Judaism even arrived on the scene. And what you have is, with each passing generation going forward, with each different religious group and religion in the area that Christians and Jews moved into, they incorporated those beliefs into themselves to help convert followers, to make it easier for people to convert to Christianity, for them to go, this is kind of like what I'm used to here. Yeah, I can go with this. I mean, they're like the fucking Borg, man. Resistance is futile. Assimilation or die. And it's that way throughout the ages.
You know, we talk a lot about things like Easter and Christmas and those things, which were of course incorporated pagan holidays that were incorporated into Christianity. Of course, like you said, to better transition the people who were being taken over literally by force by Christians at the time, most notably by the Romans, um, and
And then
they would
England
just
after
incorporate these
that.
ideas. Yeah, so they would just incorporate these ideas mostly just to smooth the transition. But one of the things I love is when we look at the New Testament, we look at a lot of the teachings of Jesus and stuff. What's funny is if you study Zoroastrianism and you study Buddhism and you study Hinduism, you come to see that a lot of these ideas that Jesus supposedly espoused, these ideas seem
They're
to
not.
come from
They're not.
those same.
They're not. They're not locked to Jesus.
Yeah, yeah, most
They're not
definitely.
new ideas.
Um, uh, Another area where I love to really talk about, because this really points out the importance of comparative mythology, is when we talk about Noah and the flood. It's one of my great talking points, because I love talking about this because of people like Ken Ham and young Earth creationists who tell us that this is a factual, true story. And then I want to point out to them, I'm like, are you sure? Because there's an earlier story than this story that's the same basic story. So which
Exactly.
came first?
Exactly. You have the Noah story predicated from multiple different religions throughout history. For instance, one of my favorites is to go back to the ancient Sumerians with Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is one of the earliest recorded demigods. He's one of the oldest recorded incarnations of God himself. And the story of Gilgamesh, it's the Epic of Gilgamesh, but within that religion, they themselves have a great flood story. And this, we're talking 15,000 years to 25,000 years before the first idea of Judaism and the Abrahamic religions ever even came onto the scene. I often laugh at people like Ken Ham when they say, "Well, the Earth is only 6,000 years old," and I sit here and I look at that and I go, "Okay, so at that point, the ancient Sumerians sat on and watched as the universe was created."
Yeah, I loved when Ken Ham and the young Earth creationists bring that one up. I love to go, well, it's weird because here's a 30,000-year-old German dildo that says you're wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, here's a dildo that proves you wrong, buddy. I'm sorry.
Like the Aztec temples. They are along the same age bracket that he's talking about, and yet there they are. The Nazca lines. Nobody has been able to actually lay down a definitive date for the Nazca lines, but yet they are over 5,000 years old, and no one knows how they were created. Guessing Allie's still working on it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I gave us some dead space there because I was messaging with her. Apparently, her kid's been fucking with her computer. It's got it all messed up.
Yeah. My tablet wound up, like, I had it on earlier today, and it was just fine, and then I turned it on like 40 minutes beforehand, and it's like, hey, you need an update.
Yeah, my computer had updates today too, so I'm glad I turned mine on early. No, it's a weird thing, and I think that's why this is important. That's why we need to have these discussions, and we need to really look at comparative mythology, because there are people like Ken Ham who want to tell you that the Earth is only 6 to 10,000 years old, and it's like, dude, there are civilizations that predate that by tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years. So you look really stupid there. And Ken is one of those types who's like, well, carbon dating is bullshit. I'm like, are you kidding me, man? Come on. Like, I think there's 26 different types of elemental dating that we can do scientifically to show the age of things, and most of these align generally in a very similar time span within a matter of 2 to 3 thousand years that we see these elemental decay rates, and we see these these time frames all aligning with each other from a scientific standpoint. And it's like, dude, you know, even if we're off by 2 to 3 thousand years, you're still so wrong. You're not even in the fucking ballpark. You know, it's like you're playing in left field at Fenway, but you're actually in Arizona. You know, and you're like, oh, okay, I've got it. I'm gonna catch that pop fly out here. It's like, dude, you're not even in the fucking ballpark. Are you kidding me? You're not gonna catch that fucking ball. That ball is nowhere near you.
Exactly. And even if we were 6 to 10,000 years old, even if you look at the advancement of technological growth, at the way civilization has advanced, for the level of advancement that we have, from just going back to the Romans until now, okay, that in itself, you look at the level of advancement there. If we have only been here for 6 to 10,000 years, we wouldn't be at the level we're at now as far as civilizational advancement. We would still be around the same period as the Aztecs. We'd still be working with basic tools, basic understanding of the world. I lost my train of thought. But civilizational advancement, the level of advancement that we're at now, it can't be made in that time span, because you start at the base level, and you can see throughout the observable history and through the research through history, that the growth of civilization as it is takes thousands of years beyond what we would have now to be if we were only 6,000 years since the first dawn of human beings.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting idea, because when we talk about human advancement, you know, I think a lot of people look at our current technological advances over probably the last 30 to 40 years, and they say, well, you know, we went from having computers that took up entire houses to having personal computers in our pockets. You know, so like, why couldn't we have advanced in 6,000 years to this point? And the trouble with that is, it takes a long time to get to the point where we can do really awesome shit. Um, and one of the reasons it takes so long is because human beings have to get more intelligent. We've had to become ever more intelligent about how we do things. Now, take for instance the horse and buggy, okay, or even just horse riding in general, and domesticating animals. From that standpoint, you know, we domesticated horses and cattle, you know, probably about 40 to 50,000 years ago, according to the best estimates from archaeology. And yet, you know, in the last 100 years, we've gone from horse-drawn buggies to automobiles to electric cars and stuff. And the problem that we ran into is we weren't smart enough to figure out how to get past that point. We had to grow and advance. And one of the things that's hindered our advancement more than anything has been religion. And the
No,
reason religion
absolutely.
has been such a hindrance is because religion poses absolute truths. And this is where we get people like Ken Ham and these fundamentalists and these young earth creationists, is because they have an absolute truth. And their absolute truth says the Bible is absolutely true. It is the absolute word of God without question. And so when you say something like that, you can't then go behind it and say, well, evolution might be the tool that God used to actually create human beings. So then you're sitting there trying to reconcile these ideas, and then you get like the Catholic Church and other Christian churches that accept evolution, and they say, well, this probably is the mechanism that was used. And sure, the Earth could be billions of years old, because who knows how long a day is for God. So was the Earth actually created in 7 Earth days? Maybe not, according to Catholicism and other mainstream Christian religions. And then you get people like Ken Ham is like, no, it's 7 literal fucking days, and is like, dude, no. you know, it doesn't make any fucking sense. Are you kidding me? And then you talk about, the speed of light, and how long it takes for a photon to actually reach the planet Earth. It takes a photon, I think, 10,000 years to actually escape from the sun. And then it takes another several years for the photon to actually reach from the sun here to Earth. So the light that we see from the sun is not instantaneous. It doesn't happen like that. This photon that we're seeing reaching Earth and hitting our eyes. This is tens of thousands of years old. That photon is elderly as shit. That photon is wearing Depends. That's how fucking old that photon is. And yet,
Exactly. Exactly. Like that's what most average individuals, let alone religious people, don't understand. You could look at the sun right now, and the literal reality could be that what you're looking at right now, the sun that you're looking at right now, could have been dead for 1,000 years already. But we're still seeing the light that's been emitted from it.
well, probably not our sun, because it is
Well,
so
not
close
not
to
not
Earth
our
in a
sun, but
relative sense. But yeah, we see stars all the time in the sky, that those stars don't exist anymore. We know they don't exist. We've been watching them for years, and we watch them blink out of existence. And from our frame of reference, we say, "Oh, that star just died." And like, no, motherfucker, that star died 1.2 billion years ago. We're just now seeing the death of that star because it takes so long for that light to actually fucking reach us. So we couldn't see it.
exactly.
We didn't see that happen. If we saw a star actually die in real time, it would be just a tremendous experience for human beings. I mean, it would be a tremendous experience to say, "Oh my
I I
goodness, I
don't
just
I don't know if
died."
you've seen it or not, Cass, but Science Weekly actually just posted a video that they caught with the Kepler telescope. They actually were able to watch a star go supernova. They were able to watch a star literally implode on itself and create a black hole. They were able to watch it physically die with the Kepler satellite.
Yeah, but it's still so many light years away that we have to understand that that took place outside of our frame of reference as far as time exists. You know,
Yeah, but
that happened outside of our frame
just
of
the fact that
reference.
they were able to watch it physically implode on it. It's an amazing video to watch because you can literally watch it expand the energy outside of it and then consume itself back on itself. It's an amazing video to watch. It's for an average person that understands the reality of existence. It's a very humbling thing to watch something that amazing and powerful just blink out of existence.
Hmm. And the weird thing about that is science has told us some very definitive things about our existence and about our planet, and about the universe in general. And no, science does not have all the answers. Of course, science cannot tell you how the universe began, because we don't have a fucking time machine, and we can't go back and actually watch it and say, "Oh fuck, this is what happened." Okay, So we're taking the information we have, and of course the best guesses are put forward. But then to see something like that, and to know some very fundamental ideas. When you see a star die like that, and of course you're talking about a supernova which went to a black hole, so we get no real throw off from that. Um, but we know that certain elements that we find here on the Earth can only be created in the heart of a star, and they only come from when a star dies. And instead of the implosion that creates a black hole, we get an explosion that throws off all sorts of materials, and in the wake of that we get planetary rebounds and accretion that creates planets that have elements such as gold and platinum and other elements. These are only made in the heart of stars, and we know they're made there because we can actually use microscopes and look at distant stars, and we can see these elements present there. And so we know that's where they come from. We know their source. And we have those elements here on Earth. So we have to know that the dying of some major star in our galaxy is what caused this galaxy and even our sun to come into existence. It threw off elements, it threw off gases, it threw off solid bodies, solid materials. And all these things over time through accretion became what we have as a galaxy now. And this new star formed, the sun that gives us human beings, it's the thing that gives us life. It was created because something else died. Another star, probably 10,000 times the star that exists now that we call the sun, that thing died and it blew the fuck up because it created too much lead in its core, and it eventually could not sustain itself, and then it just fucking exploded. And it gave us gold and platinum and all these other things that we find in there. We call them precious metals. They're, it's funny, we talk about things like diamonds, and oh, that's a precious fucking thing. Diamonds are so rare, and yet they're not. There's out there, we've actually found an entire planet that is a giant fucking diamond.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it is, because it started off as a huge ball of carbon, and over time gravitational pressure turned it into a huge fucking crystal that we would call a diamond. That's what we call it, but the reality is it's just pressurized carbon that has been reformed into this crystalline structure, and that's an entire planet that's a fucking diamond. And we're like, diamonds are so fucking precious. And I'm like, dude, diamonds are not fucking precious. They're not. We can make diamonds in a fucking laboratory. You know what we can't make in a fucking laboratory? Human beings. Like, life is the most rare thing in the galaxy. So it's a weird fucking thing. And then so to get back on topic, I'm sorry, we both drifted here because I'm having a few shots and I'm enjoying the conversation. So to get back on topic, we talk about mythology, and let let's look at how were human beings created according to religion. Now, the Bible says that human beings were created when this being from another dimension took a bunch of fucking dirt, and he fucking put some water in it, made it mud, and then he made a little fucking mud golem, and then he blew on it. It was like, poof, and then all of a sudden it was a dude,
Mm-hmm.
and boom, there's life. Now, the the frame of reference here is, let's look at Roman mythology. What does Roman mythology say about how human life was created? Well, according to Roman mythology, human life was created on the earth by a former titan known as Prometheus. And how did Prometheus do that? He took fucking mud, made a golem, and he gave it life. And
Uh-huh.
then Prometheus came back and he said, you know what? These creatures could be some really awesome motherfuckers. So I'm going to give them fire and I'm going to give them knowledge. And let's see what happens with them. And dude, when this happens, Zeus loses his motherfucking mind. Zeus is like, fuck no, man. Fire is reserved for the fucking Olympians. Knowledge is reserved for the Olympians, for the gods. And human beings are not worthy of having this shit. You're a piece of shit, Prometheus. Fuck you. And so he imprisons Prometheus in a prison where his fucking liver is eaten out by fucking vultures or eagles or some shit. I can't actually recall right now, but his liver is eaten out every single fucking day repeatedly, and it grows back, and then it's eaten out again over and over again for all of eternity. Prometheus, in my personal opinion and understanding comparative mythology, Prometheus is Lucifer. He's the light bringer. He is the
Lucifer,
one who
the
gives
morning star.
humanity knowledge. Yes. And so we get this figure of Satan or the devil. And really all Satan or the devil, in Christianity is it's Prometheus reborn. It's the being who fucking stood up against God and said, "You know what? These beings are fucking awesome. Like, let's give them knowledge. Let's give them the ability to fucking think and do for themselves, and let's give them the power to do that." And so when I look at Satanists and actual Satanists who, not the figurative Satanists who are actually atheists, but Satanists who actually believe in Lucifer as the light bringer, I have more respect for that idea than I do for Christianity. Because here's a being who stood up to this fucking tyrannical overlord that we have in the figure of the Christian God. And he said, you know what? No, these people are fucking awesome and they could do so much if you would just give them a fucking chance. And so he stood up against that God and he said, fuck you. I'm going to give them a chance. And so he gave us knowledge. He said, you know what? If you eat from that fucking tree right there, you're going to figure it all out and you can do it for yourself. And you don't need this cunt over here who keeps telling you he's the fucking boss. You don't need that fucking cunt. You can do it. Here's the knowledge. Here's the ability to do it yourself. Do it yourself. So I love that fucking idea. And I love my Satanist friends. I have plenty of Satanist friends. I think they're fucking awesome.
I often argue. I often present the argument of what is the easiest way for everyone to stand with the bad guy. And that's for the bad guy to show up first, tell you all about himself, and then when the good guy shows up, point your finger at him and say, and that's that evil fucker right there. Because you look at the Bible, and all the Bible does is exonerate and talk about how awesome and good God is, and how evil and horrible the devil is. But yet it doesn't actually say what the devil has ever done wrong. When you do a comparative list, of just deaths attributed to the two. Okay. God, with a conservative figure of 2 billion, just 2 billion, that's listed throughout the Bible. And then you have Satan with 10, if that. And then you look through the Bible for evil things that Satan has done, and there's nothing. The only works of evil that you have for Satan is in Job, is the story of Job, in which he kills off his sons and daughters.
Well, I love the book of Job. I think it's a fucking great lesson for people because the lesson is
Satan and God had a bet on who could be a bigger dick.
Why would God accept that fucking bet? What does God have to prove to fucking Satan? You created your own fucking nemesis, dude. Why do you need to have a fucking bet or an argument with this motherfucker? You could destroy him with a single fucking thought. You could say Satan never fucking existed. Boom.
Yep,
Satan's fucking
think
gone.
about that for a minute. Think about that exact premise for a minute. God created his own nemesis. When you break it down to brass tacks, God created his own nemesis. And
Oh, I know.
I'm sorry, but if I am the owner of a company, and if I'm the owner of a company, and my vice president hires an executive that is going to fuck everything up, I'm going to fire that vice president. Why? Because he has serious fucking mental issues, and I don't need that motherfucker in charge of shit. So God
Yeah,
made his own fucking nemesis and made the epitaph of evil, and yet it's our fault that shit goes wrong.
yeah. I love that idea. I've talked about it in at least 2 different blogs where I talk about, you have ultimate fucking power. You're omnipotent. Okay, what does omnipotent mean? Like, that's a very real fucking idea. Look, if we want to talk about comparative mythology, let's talk about an omnipotent being. Okay, Zeus in the Roman pantheon, he's not omnipotent. He can't do whatever he wants. Zeus can be challenged for his power, so he's not omnipotent. But when you say that your God, this Christian God, this Judaism, oh fuck, man, I'm getting lit here.
Oh, you're good.
This Abrahamic God, we say that he's omnipotent. That is a very fucking bold goddamn statement. That is a huge fucking statement to make. Your God is omnipotent? Really? He can do whatever he wants. Okay, why does childhood cancer exist? What did children do to deserve cancer? I want to know what a fucking 6-year-old did to deserve leukemia. Like, explain that to me. Your God has the power to do anything. And then we get back to this idea. Yes, God created his own nemesis according to the Christian religion. He created his own fucking nemesis. And yet he has ultimate fucking power. If you don't want evil to exist and you're the Christian God, you know what you do to make sure that evil doesn't exist?
You
You
don't
erase
create
it
it.
from existence. Yeah, you erase
You
it from
don't
existence, or
create
you
it.
don't create it in the first place.
Which comes into place.
Exactly.
If God created his own nemesis, and his nemesis is the harbinger of evil, and God does not remove it, is it truly evil?
Right?
Because God himself throughout the Bible says that evil is evil and evil shall not prevail within the kingdom of God. However, if evil exists, you have to take into account what is the definition of evil. Because you have the human definition of evil, but yet if Satan is allowed to exist and the works of Satan are allowed to continue to exist without removal by God, then that serves the basis that God does not view them as evil, nor does he view Satan as evil, which can attribute throughout the Bible that the acts of Satan are not evil. You look at the atrocities that God has committed, and God is merciful, God is love, God does not commit evil, God does not commit wrong. That means that anything and everything God does is right, and there's no evil in his actions. But yet that which Satan does is evil. But you look at what Satan has done. The shining definitive moment of Satan is providing knowledge and understanding to human beings. And that is what is viewed as evil. Allowing that which is dumb and stupid to understand and learn. And that is
Yeah,
the
it's
and that is what you and that is the defining moment of the Abrahamic views, that learning, knowledge, and understanding are evil and wrong. That means you sit back in the dark, dummy, and don't fucking peek out into the light. There's there's
it's
over 100 years of the Dark Ages that fucking attest to that.
it's great that we talk about that, because when you look at Judaism and you look at the roots of Judaism, Judaism does not actually have a benevolent, loving God.
Nope,
It's a fucked
They've
up
got a
thing.
warmonger and conqueror.
It's exactly right. The God of Judaism is not benevolent. He is not all good. In fact, under Judaism, God is both the light
And the
and the
dark.
dark. He is all. He
God is the
creates
God is the
evil
bringer
and
of
he
life.
creates good.
Yep. God is the bringer of life and the destroyer of death. He is the one who creates and the one who destroys. In the Jewish in the Jewish orthodoxy, God is both good and bad. He is one and the same. It wasn't
And
until
it's
you had Christians that said, well, we have, because the devil never existed until you had Christians.
Mhm. It's funny because we talked about earlier. You talked about a Job, and of course, this is an Old Testament scripture, and people are like, "Well, here is an Old Testament scripture where God is fighting with the devil." And in reality, God is fighting with himself. He's fighting with one of his own minions, and he's actually fighting with himself. And he's saying, okay, well, let's see how fucked up I can make this dude's life and see if he fucking agrees with me. There is no bet under Judaism. It's just a matter of, hey, how much can I fuck with this one dude and him still fucking worship me?
Exactly. How horrible can I treat this dude until he finally breaks? Because I don't think he will. That's likening it to that trailer park husband and wife. How much can I beat this bitch until she finally leaves? But she loves me, so I know she ain't going to.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. There is no devil to be argued with in Judaism, and for me, that's one of the ideas that's one of the ideas that presents itself that causes so many Jewish people that I know, and I know a lot of Jewish people, and they're just like meh about their religion because under
Meh.
under Judaism, like yeah, that's where they're at. They're like meh, because there's no heaven, there's no hell. Everybody goes to Sheol, and Sheol sucks for everybody. It's a fucking terrible place. It's like fucking Hades. It's like when you die, everything is shitty.
The Egyptian
That's
underworld.
the Jewish idea.
It's the Egyptian underworld. You're left to fend for yourself
Yeah.
against fuck all odds, and if you can actually make it, because like once you die here and you go to the Egyptian underworld, you have to fight through the underworld to get to Anubis, just for him to tear your heart from your chest and weigh it against a feather. And if your deeds in life were good, and the feather outweighs your heart, then you get to go to the paradise. However, if your heart outweighs the feather, then Amet, the alligator, eats your heart, and you're spend the rest of your time in the worst bowels of the underworld.
Well, here's the great thing about the Egyptian myths. At least under those myths, you get to take other motherfuckers with you. And you're like, hey, motherfucker, fight for me so I can get there.
Exactly. Like I love the Egyptian ideologies because like it's never the individual. Whereas Christianity is all about the individual. It's all about me, 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 me. The Egyptian mythologies and ideologies are about everybody. It's if you got one guy and he spends his life helping people and getting those people to help other people, then when he gets to the underworld, those that he has helped and that they have helped will be there with him to fight through the underworld to get to Anubis. They might not all make it to Anubis, but the goal is for all of them to work together to get this one good dude to Anubis to weigh his heart. Now, if he's still a dick and his heart is heavier than the feather, well, he's still fucked. But he's got a fighting chance. And on top of that, even if you were a dick in real life, in the underworld, you have a chance to atone yourself by working with others to get others to Anubis. So if you get others to Anubis but fall short, you have a chance that Isis will grant you benevolence and lift you from the other world to Anubis for the sacrifices you have made within the underworld to help others. That Isis will grant you favor and carry you to Anubis to give you the option to attain paradise.
You know, I just want to let everybody that happens to be watching tonight and is hanging out with us, we're going to go a little long tonight, just because we've had some technical difficulties getting here, and I'm really enjoying the conversation, and I love having these discussions. So we're going to go a little long tonight, and I'm not sure when we'll end. This could be a 2-hour fucking show. It depends on when Brown feels like getting off here and feels like he doesn't feel like talking about this anymore.
Oh man, I could talk about this all night. Hopefully Allie can get in.
Yeah, or maybe when I run out of cigarettes and liquor, I don't know. We'll see how things go. But yeah, we're probably going to run a little long tonight. So if you're watching the show, if you're watching it after the show, keep watching. We're just going to hang out and talk about this shit until we feel like we've talked it into the fucking ground. So we get back to the topic, of course. The topic is mythology and religion, and why is this an important topic? And you talk about the Egyptian mythology, and that's great. That's a great subject to talk about. One of the figures from the Abrahamic religions that I absolutely fucking look at as a founder is, of course, Abraham himself. And it's this kid that supposedly is put on a fucking put in a wicker basket and floated down a fucking river so that he lives through one of the torments of the people and becomes the new voice of the people. And it's funny when we look at this character. Okay, if we say that Abraham is actually a contributing author to the Old Testament, we have to say some other things, okay? First of all, we have to say that Abraham was the stepchild of the Egyptian people. So Abraham was adopted into an Egyptian family. Okay, now what does that mean for Abraham himself? What that means is Abraham was actually raised by Egyptians, and he had access to all Egyptian knowledge. And so if we're going to say that there was an Abraham at all, we can say that Abraham actually had access to basically the contents of the first Library of Alexandria. Like, he had access to all of these earlier mythology. And so if we're going to say that this character existed at all, we can say that this motherfucker had access to all kinds of information. And, what did he have to draw on to create a narrative that supported the ideas he wanted to put out there? And he had a wealth of knowledge and information. If this character existed at all, he had a knowledge and wealth of information at his fucking disposal under the Egyptians to say, okay, let me create this narrative that totally supports the ideas that I want to put forward. Now, personally, personally, do I believe Abraham existed? No, I don't. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a mythicist. I don't believe Jesus existed. I will tell you right now that there was no Exodus. This idea that there was fucking Egyptian or Hebrews and Israelites who were taken into captivity by Egyptians. This idea is absolutely false according to everything we know from archaeological history. And it's one of those funny things. People are like, well, you can't prove that definitively. I'm like,
Yes,
dude,
yes,
the
you actually
Egyptians were
can.
such good record
You
keepers.
can
They
you
kept
can
such detailed records.
exactly. You can actually take it directly from from historical archaeology and translations that at the time there was no such thing as an Israelite. There was no such thing as a Jew. There was no such thing as a Hebrew individual. They were Egyptians. They were lower class second rate Egyptians that failed failed to comply with the Egyptian norm, that did not they for instance uh, they would be the modern day Syrians going against the government of Syria. They're the people that don't agree with who's in charge, and they're all pissed off. They're the Donald Trumps of the world. They're the people that don't fucking get along. They don't agree with what's going on. They're angry and they don't want to be a part of it anymore. So they want to go off and make their own place. So they all got together, and now you've got the Israelites, you've got the Hebrews, you've got the people who went against the system, that they didn't like it because the system didn't cater to them. So they want to make their own system, and they're gonna cause a ruckus. They're gonna cause a problem. They're going to do whatever they can do to either get kicked out or to be able to get other people to look at them and say, "We're being oppressed. Help! We're being oppressed." And that's where you get the modern day. That's where you get the Israelites. It's the people that didn't agree with the Egyptian hierarchy and the system under Egypt. So they got together, and now you have the Israelites. They and the Exodus is essentially the people who didn't agree with them that were leaving. And I'm sorry, but a 40-year Exodus traveling in a fucking 300-mile circle, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna buy that's fucking stupid. When you've got Alexander that traveled 60% of the entire known world in that area in 12 years. But
Yeah.
yet for 40 years
And
you're going in a less than a 300-mile circle. Fuck off. Get out of here.
it's funny because I actually named my first son after Alexander the Great and his greatest battle that we have in recorded history, which was against the Tyrians, or the island of Tyr. So my son is named Xander Tyrion Rigsby, and it's funny because I gave him that name because of some very serious conflicts in my own mind with Alexander's biggest triumphs and his greatest failures as a leader. Alexander's greatest triumph as a leader was to say, he came into areas and he said, whatever you believe, whatever you're doing right now, that's cool. I'm cool with that. You keep doing that. All I want you to do is to pay me respect and homage, and I'll protect you. And Alexander won more wars without actual fucking conflict than any other leader in known history because he did that. He said, you know what? Whatever you're doing, that's cool. You just pay me tribute and you pay me a little bit of
Alexander
taxes and you keep all your shit, man. You do your thing. I'm not here to fuck with your thing. You do your thing. You just say, hey, I want your protection and I want your leadership, and we'll keep doing our thing that we've been doing here. And that's how Alexander won his greatest wars. And his greatest battle was with the Tyrians, because the Tyrians were like, "No, man, fuck you. We're not giving up our shit. We're not fucking becoming part of your shit." And Alexander went out of his way to build fucking land bridges and all kinds of crazy shit to get onto the island of Tyr and take that motherfucker. And it took him so long that he died doing it, but he got it. Before his death, Alexander conquered the island of Tyr, and that was a huge, momentous moment in the life of Alexander the Great to conquer the island of Tyr. No one had fucking done that. No one could do that. They were impenetrable. And Alexander said, "No, the fuck not. I got you. I got you. I'll get there. Just give me enough time. I got you."
Well, it's like
Alexander was a great leader.
you talk about you naming your son after Alexander. I wish my video was working because I would show I would throw it up to show Steph's face when I say this, but I wanted to name Andy. I actually wanted to name him Achilles because I look at anybody from history, and I look at Achilles and say that he would be the most amazing person to meet from history because he didn't fight for Greece. He didn't fight for Agamemnon. He didn't fight for the gods. He just simply fought for himself to be the best. Because of him, they conquered Troy. That he he himself would look at the gods and spit on them and say that he controls his fate and he controls his destiny. That nothing but he controls himself. And he's still today considered to be one of the greatest warriors in all of history, one of the greatest tacticians. And he relied on no one or nothing but himself.
It's funny because a lot of people, they don't get my son's name at all, because his name is actually Xander Tyrion Rigsby, and it's not Alexander, but it's spelled with an X. And so people are like, Xander, and I'm like, no, it's not Xander, it's Xander. that's how that's pronounced, based on fucking phonetics. I'm sorry. And people were like, Tyrion, what's that? And I'm like, dude, do you not know fucking history?
I'm
Have
sorry,
you not clued
you're
in?
in the the southern part of the United States. Republican-led education is a privilege, not a right.
Yeah, yeah, and the people that do get it, they're like, oh, well, his middle name that comes from Tyr, like the Norse god who was later renamed Loki. Like that's where that comes from. I'm like, well, kinda, but not really.
It's a good guess, but not really.
Yeah, they're often lost by his fucking name. And then I name my youngest. His name is Declan Asher, which is fucking crazy, because he's actually named after Declan, who is one of the patron Irish saints of Christianity. Um, and he was one of the first progressive saints of Ireland. And then Asher, my wife wouldn't let me name him Ashley, because I wanted to name him after Ashley from The Evil Dead, Ash. But she wouldn't let me do Ashley, so we got Asher, which turns out to be a Jewish name, which is weird. It means like the heralded, or the chosen of God, which is fucking weird for my kid having a Jewish name, but whatever. I like it. I think it
That's
flows well.
hilarious.
I you know, I love this discussion. It's one of the things that really brought me to questioning Christianity was questioning its roots. I was raised by a fundamentalist Christian. I still have fundamentalist Christian family. They're very much young Earth creationists. In fact, my father, the man who raised me, he took his wife to a creationist museum for their anniversary. That was his anniversary for his wife, was to take her to a creationist museum. And I'm like, holy shit. It's just the craziest fucking thing for me, because I'm like, dude, I could take my fucking wife to the Smithsonian for our anniversary, and she would love it, just because it's the study of actual history, and she would be
Mhm.
like, oh my goodness, this is wonderful. And yet, if I tried to take her to a creationist museum for our anniversary, she would have beat me fucking senseless. She would have been like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Is Ken Ham here? Are you going to debate Ken Ham here at his fucking museum with
No, no,
fucking
baby.
zip lines and shit?
No, baby. This is our anniversary. Happy anniversary. And that's when you just hang your head in shame and think to yourself, well, I'm not getting laid for 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, it would be terrible, you know. I love my wife to death, because she's the one who looked at me one day and said, "You know what? Have you ever thought about the idea that maybe there's not a God?" And I was like, "Holy shit! What are you talking about? Of course there's a fucking God." And she's like, "Really? Why?" And I was like, "I don't fucking have an answer. I'm sorry. Shit." And she's the one that made me think. That's the woman that made me say, you know what, fuck, man, I can't support my ideas. And
Mhm.
I love the movie What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams. I love that idea of an afterlife where you're only inhibited by what you can't let go of. And my wife has been so instrumental in me letting go of so much shit in my life. She's like, really, can you justify that? And I'm like, fuck, no. And so I have to let go of it. Like, can you justify racism? And I'm like, fuck, sure. The Bible. And she's like, no, no, that's not
No.
a valid
No.
fucking excuse. And so it's just like you get to that point, you're like, well, fuck, no, I can't justify it. I'm sorry, shit. I guess I'm wrong. I love that woman to death. I love having someone in my life that's willing to check me at the fucking door and say, "Are you sure?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure." And she's like, "Are you really sure? Like, can you justify it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can justify it. Hold on." And then she's like, "No, that's bullshit." I'm like, "Damn it."
You're like, yeah, I could justify it. And then she just pulls out a random book that's like random thesaurus, dictionary, history book, and she's like, really? Let's see. And you're just, I'm fucked. I'm losing this. There ain't no. She's got that. She's got that. Damn, you're dumb look. I'm done.
Yeah, my wife is a wonderful woman, and I can give her enough credit, to where I'm at as a human being, to where I'm at as a person, as an individual. I can't possibly give her enough credit. And she's the one that started me on the path of saying, can you justify it? And in the end, that's where we get back to. this idea of comparative mythology, that's where we get back to saying, where are the roots? Like, okay, you can say Abraham did this, that, or the other. Let's ask the question, was Abraham a real motherfucker? Like, sure, you can say Abraham did this, that, or the other. Abraham said this, that, or the other. Let's go back and say, was Abraham a real motherfucker?
Well,
And then we're like, holy shit, the Egyptians were such good record keepers. And there's no record of this dude. Fuck, like, if there's anybody who's gonna say Casper Rigsby is a real motherfucker, you know, he who actually existed, it's gonna be the people who fucking hate me. It's gonna be the people who were like, no, this motherfucker said this, and fuck that dude for saying this shit. That's gonna be the person that proves my existence. Like, I existed because, not because of the people who said, hey, this guy is awesome, but because of the people who said, hey, this guy's a fucktard. Fuck this dude. That's gonna be the people that fucking validate my existence. It's not gonna be my supporters. It's gonna be the people who fought against me. And you know, we look at Christianity and we say, okay, where were the Romans saying that there was this Jesus dude who caused a bunch of shit and we had to fucking deal with him? So show me the Romans who said that, and then I'll say, okay, there was a dude named Jesus. And if you can't show me that, then I'm going to say, hey, man, where were his fucking detractors? Where were the people who called this dude into question? Like, where were those motherfuckers? I don't care about fucking Josephus and his fucking plagiarized bullshit. Like, show me the Romans that were like, hey man, we had this douchebag that was in here causing a bunch of shit, and we had to deal with him. And this is what we fucking did. Show me those dudes. And then I will say, okay, there might have been a Jesus. But until the point you can show me that, I'm like, fuck no. Please go on Amazon, look up any of my fucking books, and show me the fucking 1-star reviews where people like, I hate this fucking dude and everything that he fucking says, and fuck this dude. And that will show you I'm a real motherfucker. Like, I'm a real fucking person, because people hate me. People hate me for what I fucking say. Now, can you
I
show me that from
I love
Jesus?
the I love the 1-star reviews on your books, Cass. They're some of the greatest things ever. Like, just some of the reviews are just the most amazing things in the world.
Oh yeah, you know, I tell people all the time when they're looking at my books and they're like, "Should I buy your book?" I'm like, "Look at my 1-star reviews. Tell me how many people fucking hate me. They hate everything I fucking do. And then tell me, should you read this shit? Should you read the shit that I write based on the fact that people fucking hate me? Like, can you hate me? Are you even capable of fucking hating me the way that some people do?" Oh, I wish I could get more 1-star reviews. Fuck them, man. You know, it's funny because Amazon gives me the same fucking treatment for 1-star reviews that they give me for 5-star reviews. They're like, you know, people really hate this fucking book, so we'll throw it out here and we'll say, hey, you might hate this fucking book too. Check it out. And
I,
and so Amazon's just like, hey, check this shit out.
I'm looking for my favorite 1-star review so far. Like, I found I had one for one on the Bible in the nutshell. And I'm trying to find my favorite 1-star review.
Oh my god, there's so many. There's so many people that were just like, this is fucking horseshit. This dude's a cunt. I love him though, man. And that's all I want to see from the religious world. That's all I want to see when it comes to the argument of, was there really a Jesus? Was there really a dude named Jesus who was a fucking Jewish reformist who fucking tried to reform Judaism and at the same time caused all this bullshit that made people fucking want to kill him? Like, show me that. Because that's factual fucking evidence, not
Show me
your
a
supporters.
show me a first-hand account from somebody who hated him.
Exactly.
Because you can show me shit all day for people that like someone. That doesn't mean shit because these are the people that like him. Show me something from somebody who hated this motherfucker. Because as far as Jesus goes, you can't find anything from anywhere outside of the Bible to show that this dude even existed. There's no historical evidence. There's no archaeological evidence. There's nothing anywhere that states this motherfucker even existed outside of the Bible. And the only supporting evidence for that comes from Paul. And Paul is the only one that fucking explains Jesus. And his explanation of Jesus and knowing Jesus is, I was sitting in a French prison dungeon and he visited me in a dream.
Exactly.
And that's where fucking Jesus came from. A fucking schizophrenic dude in a fucking jail cell. And this is what Jesus is based on. And then you have people like, oh no, his apostles. No, motherfucker. The shit with his apostles came from Paul.
Exactly. I tell people all the time, I'm like, you call yourself a Christian, you're not a Christian. You're a fucking polytheist. You believe what one dude wrote, and we get 13 books of the New Testament out of 23 that were written by this one fucking dude, supposedly, who never met the motherfucker. Like, this dude never met fucking Jesus. He never actually met him. Like, Paul doesn't start preaching the word of fucking Jesus until after Paul is imprisoned. And fucking supposedly he's like, oh, well, fuck, man, Jesus. Like, this is the dude. And everybody's like, oh, fuck yeah, Jesus. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Don't call yourself a fucking Christian.
Exactly. You're like, alright, so this dude, this starving, beaten, tortured motherfucker in a cold, stone-floored cell is telling me about this dude that he met in a hallucination. That seems totally plausible. That seems like the most relevant thing. And yet, the dude sitting on the park bench at the local park feeding the ducks, talking to the purple alligator sitting next to him, seems crazy.
Dude, there is literally 20 years of Jesus's supposed life that is non-fucking existent. Like, yeah, that didn't fucking happen. Like,
he's
Jesus
13
didn't live.
and now he's 30.
Yeah, like, that didn't fucking happen. And yet,
13
everybody's
and
like, no,
30.
Jesus was really dude.
Apparently, those are the years that TMZ didn't get the copyright to.
Yeah, people are like, well, why do mainstream scholars agree that Jesus existed? And I'm like, dude, do you know how hard it is to get a theological degree and actually like debate this shit? if you're not a fucking Christian, if you don't agree, at the very least, I look at people like Bart Ehrman, and I'm like, dude, in order to get your degree, you have to actually say that you're not going to dispute whether or not Jesus actually fucking existed. Like, that's what you had to go through to get your fucking degree. And yet I'm supposed to go, oh, well, you're a historian, so of course you're right. I'm sorry, but appeal to authority fallacy much? Really? Because, no, fuck you. I don't give a shit what you say, Bart Ehrman. Show me something outside the Gospels and outside of Josephus's known plagiarism that shows me Jesus existed, and then we'll have a real discussion. But if
But
you
see,
can't show me that, fuck you.
yeah, exactly. But seems like that's the point when it comes to religion. You know, it's the taboo. You know, it's the same taboo. The things you don't discuss at the dinner table: politics and religion. Why? Because they're uncomfortable. They're uncomfortable topics of conversation. Because they're the things that can't be questioned. You don't question religion when you go to somebody else's house. Why? It's not the customary thing to do. Fuck you. I'm sorry. I'm at your house. I don't give a fuck what you believe, but I want to know about it. And if you take offense to you telling me that we worship the purple underwear monster, and you take offense to me saying, "Nah, bro, that shit's stupid," then that's your problem, not mine. That's you having an issue, not me. Because if that's what you believe and you get angry that I say, "Nah, dude, that's dumb," then you don't have the personal conviction to actually stand on what you believe. And that's the greatest thing about being an atheist when dealing with Christians, is that I have yet to meet a Christian that does not get offended and upset when I say, "Really? That's what you're going with? That's pretty fucking stupid." I've yet to meet one that didn't get upset and angry, you know. And like, I laugh when people come at me on the opposite end and say that I'm stupid and dumb because I don't believe in God. I just laugh and I'm like, and you don't believe in the purple unicorn walrus that rapes your ear at night? Well, it's dumb. That doesn't exist. How do you know? Have you ever seen it? You have anything to dispute it? No. No. Well then, you got a purple monkey walrus fucking your ear at night. You're dumb, and you're getting ear fucked.
Yeah, I feel like if I have to pick a religion, even as an atheist, if I'm like, hey, you've got to pick a fucking religion, I'll be like, dude, I'm a fucking dudist. I believe in fucking vodka and rum, mixed with half and half. And, I think white Russians are actually a fucking thing. And you can't prove me otherwise because white Russians actually fucking exist. And I believe in white Russians and bowling. So suck a dick. That's where I'm at in life. Fuck you, I'm a dudist.
I believe in Spider-Man because my Spider-Man comic, it proves to me.
Yeah. It's
But
it,
but going back to go a little off topic, back to Peter though. Like, just thinking about Peter for a moment, it brings me to this. You know, my favorite parts of the Bible are where Jesus is talking to God, himself, and somebody who wasn't there is writing about it.
yeah.
And that's what I attribute to Paul. Paul is telling you about how Jesus and God were talking to each other when no one was there to record it.
Yeah. And when we talk about Peter, it's a weird fucking thing because Peter was honestly supposedly the first fucking pope. And it's weird. Why was Peter the first fucking pope? Because God said to Peter, hey, whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. And then Peter fucking gets killed and crucified, and so then comes in Paul, and Paul's like, hey, I used to hate Christians, but now I fucking love them, and I think this Jesus dude is real. And people were like, well, why is that? And he's like, hey man, I was in prison and this dude appeared to me in a dream, so hey, that's what's up.
I was in prison, and
It's
this
fucking
Jesus dude told
crazy.
me he loved me and treated me nice at night. Um, Paul, we need to have a discussion about your time in that Tijuana prison.
All right, man. We've gone a half hour over, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut it a little short. As always, I wish Allie had gotten in here with us, but she's having technical difficulties tonight, and she wasn't able to make it here. So it's just been me and Timothy Brown, a very close friend of mine who found his way to atheism because I was a douchebag. So
Pretty much.
keep that in mind. Like keep that in mind when you think about, should I really go in and talk to these people? Like sure, you should. You
How and
should talk
why,
to these
man?
people.
How and why, and why does that make sense to you?
Exactly. And the views that we express here are not necessarily the views of all members of Atheist Republic. Of course, we're a huge organization with a bunch of people. My guest here tonight, Timothy Brown, is not a member of Atheist Republic, but Timothy could be.
I am.
He could be.
I'm actually listed as a content creator.
Oh, sweet, sweet. So Timothy has joined our team. He's joined the organization, and it's it's in some small part due to our discussions. Um, through Atheist Republic, through me being a vocal voice for atheism and saying, dude, I don't care if you believe there's a God, but it's not the God of the Bible. Like you can believe in a God, that's fine, but it ain't this God. Like you've got to pick a God, and there's over 3,000 to pick from, and you take your fucking choice, and I will fucking tear it apart.
Right.
Um,
And
and
for the
and that's day in day out.
for those watching,
That's what I do.
I don't have clear view of my camera. It's not showing me that it's active, but apparently it is active. So if if I'm all sorts of crazy on the camera, it's because I have no idea what's going on with it. I don't know where it's pointing or anything like that. My wife came in and showed me on mine. She's like, we're looking at your fucking the bald spot on your head. I'm like, oh, I need to fix that.
So, of course, this is not the view of necessarily atheist republics themselves, but this is a couple drunk dudes who wanted to talk about this topic. And why should you study comparative mythology? Like, why should you understand this? And it all boils down to the idea that you need to be informed
You need to
about
know
what
where
it
your shit
is.
came from.
Exactly. Like you need to know what's going on. You need to know where your shit came from, as Brown says, and that's perfect. Um, that's perfect for what we do. So this is not necessarily the views of all 300 people that are a part of the Atheist Republic organization. If you support us in any way, please support us financially or come in and be a blogger or a writer for our news team, that would be actually wonderful. We want more people writing news articles about what's going on in the world today and how we can make a difference. Become part of this community. That's what we're trying to do here. Be a part of this community and be a part of the atheist community and say, you know what? I'm an atheist and I don't believe there's a God. You know, I don't believe that bullshit. Um, I want to make a difference while I'm here, and when I'm gone, I'm fucking gone. Maybe I can leave a little something behind. And if you come right for us, if you come do what we're doing, if you come make your voice be heard, then you can be a part of this too. So, everyone out there, I encourage you to visit atheistrepublic.com and check out what we're doing and become part of our team. Um, Maybe you still think there might be a God out there, and that's okay too. Like, we get it. If you just want to say, "Oh no, I'm agnostic," like that's okay. Um, just put your ideas out there, and we'll listen to what you've got to say. This has been another episode of the Devils in God's Country, and we've gone way further than we probably should.
We usually do when
We
I'm on.
will see you again next Monday, and same time, same channel. Come check us out. Um, Feel free to take a shot every time I say the word fuck, because I'm a big profanity user and I love the word fuck. So,
Take a shot when I say
have fun with
when I say someone's stupid.
it. We'll see you next week. Bye.